Hi, everybody, and welcome to the third episode today of The Rope of Hope. Tonight, I am joined by the messenger of hope herself, Miss Tasha Wilson. Thank you for being here, Tasha.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course. Well, before we jump into things, you guys, you know how hard I work. You've seen me today. This is, like I said, third episode of this show alone, fourth episode today. Please consider supporting this broadcast as well as my other broadcasts at buymeacoffee.com/this fat girl life. You guys, when you buy me a cup of coffee for just $5, that goes towards taking my message to a national level. And so you're partnering with me means you're partnering with something that could become huge. So buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/this fat girl life. So, Tasha, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. It's always funny when someone asks me that because it's like a loaded question. I wear a lot of hats. So, aside from being a mental health professional, as my vocational job, I am an author and a speaker. And so, a lot of what I do, they kind of work together. So that's the nice part about it. Um, have I ever thought that I would be in this type of position? Never, but we'll get into that a little later. Yeah, so when you see me, sometimes people are knowing me as Tasha W, the messenger of hope as a speaker, or other people are knowing me from seeing my face on a book, or others have experience with working with me in the mental health field. So no matter what avenue we've met, the greatest position that I always hold is just being myself, authentically being Tasha W. I think that's the most important piece of being able to relate to people no matter what level of perception we've met.
I love that. Well, as you can see, we already have our first comment. Cassandra's on watching with us. Hi, Cassandra. Anytime comments come in, I will flash them across the screen so you'll be able to see them as well. So, Tasha, let's go ahead and jump on into your story at this point. I'm going to kind of let you take the reins.
Okay, so to be quite honest, a lot of my life is completely different than what I'm recognized as the messenger of hope. So my life has often been consisted of pain, turmoil, hurt, trauma. At the age of 16, I had lost my father from a work-related incident. And being in a small knit community, it was something that was so massive that my mom, my brother, and I kind of became like under the microscope of other people's opinions about us. And so the incident was on the front page of the paper. So it was a constant reminder of what was going on. Actually going past the workplace, on our way home. So that was a constant reminder, dealing with reporters trying to come to the front door and try to get, intel on what was happening. Honestly, even having company reps trying to come in and trying to get my mom to be quiet and not talk about the situation. So it was a lot going on in the mind of a 16-year-old to see all of that happening in our home. And then you think about a year and a half later, I'm now on a college campus as an 18-year-old, and I was sexually assaulted by someone that was considered an acquaintance. I didn't really know them. I knew of them because we had mutual friends. And so not addressing, what went on with my father, compounding with what happened with the sexual assault was a lot to take in. From being at such a young age, still trying to figure out who I was. And so it just seemed like everything that I touched or, wherever I was, it just seemed very painful. And it just kind of almost felt like nothing good was going to come out of it, because my whole point of going to school was to now not be recognized based upon my father's circumstance and just try to create a new identity for myself. And then now I'm labeled with this situation that happened. Yeah.
Right. You go from, the daughter of the man who lost his life to rape victim.
Exactly.
And nowhere in there is Tasha.
Exactly. Exactly.
So In all of that, how do you find Tasha?
For me, it really became that aha moment of tired of being weighed down because I just felt like I wasn't going anywhere. I just felt stuck. I felt really trapped and I was just miserable, carrying that situation with my dad. For me, it brought PTSD because, to be quite honest, it was an explosion at his job. So I heard it. I saw the black smoke in the air and I just wasn't sure what was happening, not knowing in that moment that's when he took his last breath. And so out of our family, I was the only one that heard that and was affected by that impact in that regard. And so for me, it then became okay. So like loud noises, thunderstorms in particular, frightened me because it was a reminder, it was a trigger. And so PTSD became my close cousin, you know, and then with the sexual assault, so not really being able to explain that to people without feeling crazy, it was just hard. So I kind of carried that in. So that just made me feel heavy. And then with the sexual assault, I just was feeling so guilty and ashamed and embarrassed because the stigma that comes along with that, it's kind of like, how did you become so senseless that you didn't see the signs, And so after a while, I had to make the decision and say, I'm not going to allow either situation to control me any longer. And most importantly, it really came from the sexual assault that made me say, am I going to get up and rise from this, or I'm just going to allow this situation to continue to control who I am, how I move, and how I function. And so I didn't want the guy to no longer have control over me like he did from the assault. And so I just really had to kind of dig down in my toolbox and say, who were you before these things happened? How did you feel about yourself before these things happened? What was it about these things that made you so quick to turn off who you were? And why did you feel it was necessary? And so I started journaling a lot because it just was easier to kind of download all my feelings in paper. And then after a while, it became a little easier for me to start opening up and verbalizing what actually happened. And so my best friend was the first person that I just kind of shared everything with. Like, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And this is why you probably noticed that I've been acting withdrawn. And so having her there and normalizing how I felt and affirming me was really major.
So, at what point did you discuss any of this with like your family?
Oh my, my mom and brother. Those
See, I dig deep with some questions.
Listen, when I talk to my mom and my brother, it was a few months after I shared with my best friend, and of course, naturally, they're angry, right? Because my brother, he's my older brother at that. So he's like, oh, where is he? Like, okay, do I need to roll up on the campus and figure out what's going on? Because he's like, I'm his little sister. And then when our father passed, my brother was 21 at the time. So for him, it was like a dual role. Like, I'm your big brother, but now I'm taking you under as if I'm a father figure to you, right? And so it's
the
now
protector.
like, yeah. And so it's kind of like, what you're not going to do is hurt someone I love or offend someone I love, and I don't do anything about it. So he was very angry, and he definitely wanted to, as we always say in Maryland, check him. He was going to check him. My mom, she felt like it was her fault, like, because she raised us to just be so open-minded, to be so loving, to be so giving. So it's kind of like she felt like it was the way that she raised us that it kind of allowed an outlet for this to be created. And I had to remind her that it's no one's fault but his. Like, he had this premeditated. That's just who he is. He thought it was okay, and it's not, and it's inappropriate. It's nothing that we could have done or said anything that would have caused him to change his mind. So with that, once I told them, I made the decision to start going to counseling. And I was going to a support group, which was interesting for me because this is my second time going to a support group. The first time when my father passed, the high school just kind of assimilated me into one, which was interesting because it was like, great idea, but wrong approach because no one sat down to the table and talked to my mother and say, hey, this is something we think that could be useful for your daughter. I mean, I was 16, and so it
Right.
wasn't until it was like the element of surprise and they call my name on the intercom and I'm there. And so of course I'm already guarded. I'm like, I don't want to talk to anyone. And I didn't know what was happening. And so for me, the second time going to support groups, but this time with the sexual assault, I already had a preconceived notion like, is this going to be the same thing as before? Like, are people going to try to talk to me as if I'm a science project, or they're going to really want to hear what I have to say? And when I got there, it was refreshing to know that it was completely different than what I experienced before. It was other people who were, a part of their process, either further along than I was, or just right there at the same moment. And so it really felt good to hear that we all shared similar experiences and ultimately similar feelings. So I didn't feel ostracized, like, okay, it's just me, or, that kind of thing. And so having that additional support was extremely helpful to let me know I didn't have to walk this journey alone.
So did your family ultimately go into any type of therapy counseling with you?
When my father passed, we all had, counseling on our own. But when it came to the sexual trauma, no. If anything, they more so got resources, just trying to figure out how can they best show up for me and not have it come off forced, And so
Mm-hmm.
one thing that they did look into was RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, which I'm now a part of for the Speakers Bureau. They really looked at resources like, okay, as a family member, what do I do when someone confides in me and shares this? How do I handle it? And for them, it was just more so listening, not trying to do more than what I needed them to do, but allow me to lead and guide what I needed from them. And so that was very important.
So you've gone through these god awful experiences.
Mm-hmm.
You've started, finding who Tasha is away from these experiences.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go from just Tasha to the messenger of hope? How does that happen?
Yeah. So once I really went into the rediscovery piece of recognizing who I was from the very beginning, I realized that the messenger of hope was someone I've always been. I just didn't have language to it. Because prior to these situations, I've always been that person to help everyone look at the bright side of things, or turn lemons into lemonade, or being the glue, the rock that kind of stabilize everyone else. And I've just always been that one that whenever somebody was down, I just always knew what to say, or just being present to make them feel better about themselves, and just always being that listening ear and that supporter and that advocate. And so when I really said, okay, I'm going to really take the time to rediscover who I am and to pick up the broken pieces that I had once lost, I realized this is who you are, and it's nothing wrong with being who you are. And it's okay to be a hope bringer in spite of the tragedy and trauma you've experienced. And, a lot of times we feel like what we've experienced kind of erases our identity, but it doesn't. It doesn't define you. If anything, it's just a part of your story to help someone else out. And so for me, that's when I realized I'm going to own who I am. I'm going to embrace who I am, and I'm going to share with everyone who I am and no longer shrink back from that.
I absolutely love that. Now, if somebody, first off, I want to say if you are watching or listening this and you have gone through a sexual assault, there are so many resources out there for you. RAIN is one of them that was mentioned. There are resources available. So please reach out. You can reach out anonymously. And if you're not comfortable reaching out to an organization, and you just need someone to talk to, hit me up on Messenger. I've been there. I will talk to you. I will give you every virtual hug in the book. We actually have somebody else who is on right now, who is leaving some messages. Hi, it's true. Everyone experiences trauma. It's a natural part of development, but people go through more. Some people go through more than others.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam, that is 100% accurate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm thankful for that comment. Now, Tasha, if somebody is wanting to work with you or reach out to you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I am on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. My Instagram handle is life with Tasha W _, and on Facebook it's Tasha W. Also, my website, www.tashaw.net. And then another way is my email, lifewithtashaw@gmail.com. People are always sending me emails and just asking me questions about different things that they may just want to keep confidential, and I'm okay with that. I always tell people I'm an open book. So if it's something like you want to learn more about me, that's the best way to get in contact with me about that. And then also, like, my website features my books that I have on there as well.
And what was that email again? Because I'm typing it into the comments.
lifewithtashaw@gmail.com.
Okay, and we actually do have another comment on here. And I'm going to let you field this question.
Okay.
Adam says, can long-term childhood abuse and trauma cause mental health issues such as narcissism and BPD?
It can. It really depends on the individual. A lot of things mental health related are individual based. You could either be that person that's exhibiting those characteristics, or you could be someone who's more susceptible to receiving those characteristics. Because I know for me, with dealing with trauma, I was more open to dead-end relationships where I was with a narcissist, because I just felt like that's what I deserved. So knowing the red flags, addressing those red flags are important, but it's that sense of awareness. I think that is really key. But I think also when dealing with that, there's a level of grace and patience that comes with that. I know oftentimes people are outside looking in like, why are you dealing with that? Or why are you behaving that way? And, everyone has all these questions, but no one's really being that support that you need, really. And what support looks like is just showing up without judging. And I think that's the key part that people miss. It's like people just try to do this quick fix or try to change you instead of enhancing who you are. And so a lot of times there's so much taboo and stigma with mental health that people are often shunned or just don't say anything about it because they feel like it's a disgrace to their family. And it's not true. Like, we all have something going on. It's just that everyone is just not open and honest about it. And so I think being able to recognize, okay, something is happening, I'm not sure what. That's why it's important to really connect with a provider and say, I just need to talk this out and I need to figure out what's going on and what would be the best resource for me.
I absolutely love that. Now, on the bottom of your screen, guys, you can see to find Tasha, you can go to www.tashaw.net, or if you would rather reach out by email, that is lifewithtashaww@gmail.com. Now, Tasha, I do have one. Oh, we've got another comment from Adam. We all have an inner child within inside of us. That is 100% true.
Yes,
that is 100%
so true.
And we need to learn to nurture that inner child.
I was going to say that.
So, Adam, thank you so much for being on here with us. Cassandra, thank you for being on here with us as well. I have one final question for you, Tasha. What is the most inspiring thing that has ever been said to you?
Ooh, the most inspiring thing, I would say it actually came from my dad. He always would tell me, You are beautiful, so embrace that. And what he would
I
say
love
to
that.
me about that is like, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to change to fit in. You know, you're made who you are for a reason.
I absolutely love that. With your permission, I would like to use that on the social media page at some point.
Please. Yeah.
I definitely will. Well, Tasha, thank you again so much for coming on the show, for allowing yourself to be so open and raw and vulnerable. I think it definitely, has an impact. Obviously, we had a lot of comments tonight, which I love. If you are watching this as a replay, please put hashtag replay, put your comment on there, and I will make sure either I respond or I will get the comment to Tasha so she can respond. Again, you guys, if you want to be a listener supporter, you want to know who's coming on the show in advance, you want supporter only content, please go to buymeacoffee.com/ this fat girl life. It's $5 to buy me a coffee, but that $5 is going towards taking this message of hope and of self-love to a broader audience. So definitely I would love if you were a part of that. I hope you guys have an amazing night. Thanks so much for joining us.